Yeah, let's put you there. I think we are. Yeah. Okay.
Welcome back, everybody, to Embrace the Storm podcast. Number, I have no idea because I have not been numbering them.
Come on.
Even though you've been telling me to. We're here with my co-host, Jeremy Weems, rocking his Coldwell Banker shirt this evening.
Apparently so.
A little sad, when a collar form. Usually have a collar on. This evening, I was telling you about what we should do, and I threw out the idea of interviewing. And the reason why is twofold. One, I think you have an incredible story, stories, if you will. And two, I was watching a bunch of our stuff back when I was doing some uploading for YouTube and TikTok, which we'll talk about in a minute there, audience. But I think I talked too much. And so tonight is all about you. Like the Toby Keith song, I want to talk about me? No, I want to talk about you.
All right. A little reverse Toby Keith.
Little reverse Toby
All
Keith.
right.
But before we dive into any of that, before I ask you how your week was and you give me a lowdown, where can you find us? Where can you find the podcast? So there is a TikTok channel, newly minted, Embrace the Storm Coaching, at Embrace the Storm Coaching, all one word, on TikTok. You can check out our content on YouTube if you look up my name at Brendan Valks, BREN. I'm going to link it down in the description below when we drop this video on YouTube, and I'll link it as well on Spotify. You can also go over to Spotify, type in Embrace the Storm podcast, and we will come up with the Embrace the Storm logo. There, but in white. And you can find Jeremy at
Weems World Realtor.
On Instagram,
Facebook, TikTok.
And you can find me
YouTube.
At Brendan Valks on everything. And then, as always, embracethestorm.ca. Check out everything we got going on. I linked to everything there. Yeah. With that said, what's your chair?
Week's been good. It's been a fun week. Got a nice surprise ending to the week that kind of came up with closing a deal that I didn't know we were going to do. We kind of decided to write. It's funny. We wrote 2 offers. One earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Fell apart. We didn't get that one accepted. Literally the next day, booked another showing.
Yep.
Found another house, wrote another offer, got that one accepted, and removed conditions. So Monday was one that fell through. Tuesday.
Jeremy's check is rolling in quicker than he thought.
Well, of course. But you know what? It's just that persistence of pushing through. Like, we lost. Okay, here. As soon as I knew we lost, I was like, hey, what else? We had these other ones available. Let's take a look. And it was like, instantly, look, I booked showings here. Can you meet me here at this time? And they're like,
yeah.
And off we went, right?
We were talking before we went on air about keep swinging, right?
Yeah.
Like some of the best batters in baseball have the best average, but not the best score. And the reason being is because they just keep swinging.
Yeah.
Right? And for you, I was thinking about it while you were talking to me before, how much further behind, maybe you didn't close this deal, but how much further behind if you were like, oh, what was me? That you didn't keep pushing forward, even though things kind of weren't rolling the way you want.
Well, that's, I think, a big part of it. Is just, that didn't work out the way we wanted. Knowing full well, and this wasn't the first time we lost on one of them, and for different reasons, and I thought that some were just outside of where we were comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense. But it's just always looking for this opportunity. If this door shuts, okay, so why did it shut? Maybe there's something else there, right?
Yeah.
And out of all the places we looked at, this one was by far the best place had the best setup, best layout for them, the best yard, the right location, everything just checked their boxes better than any of the other places. They're already willing to settle with something else, but then this one came up and it was like,
yeah. I understand both sides of that coin because we look at so many houses when my wife and I bought.
Yeah.
By the time we found the house we now live in, I was like, babe, just pick one, right? I wrote there like,
oh, it must be nice to be like, let's just pick whichever one.
You're that rich. No, it's just like as a real estate agent, maybe you don't get this right because you're helping clients, helping friends find the next home, right?
Yeah.
But as someone that's not in that world, that, I'm not passionate about it. As someone buying a house, we probably looked at 15 houses before we finally found the one.
Yeah.
And by the time we found the one we live in now, I was just like, we looked at a bunch of houses. We like to cover all of them. I don't really care anymore. But we just pick one, move on. I didn't want to look at any more houses. But then we walked into this one, and maybe this doesn't happen to everybody, but my wife walked into the house we live in now, and she went and looked at me and said, "Buy this one. This is my home." And she just did. Like, we didn't even tour it yet. She just walked in the front door and knew. And so I was like, I looked at our realtor at the time and was like, "We'll walk through, but like, go buy this house. Go."
And so houses have a vibe. People, it sounds funny, but like you walk in there, you can just feel, oh, this is the right one. This is the right. This is where I need to. Yeah, this is where I need to be, right? And it's funny which houses speak to which people.
You probably see it a lot.
Yeah,
like the branding.
You can see the energy of people when they're also, there's just a shift, and you're like, okay, this is it now. So that also allows me to know, okay, so now we can push a little bit more, or it's like, okay, this is the right one. So I know how to talk to them differently. It's like, okay, here.
Yeah.
So we're going to push like, okay, so the positive of this one is blah, blah, blah. But this one's not meeting your needs here, here, and here. So I don't know if this is the right one for you, but I mean, ultimately it's your choice. Right. But you kind of get to understand what the needs of people are.
So interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting. I could never do your job. Like from a business perspective, I could do a job. I would not love the job like you.
No, I love it.
I know you do. I know, and I could never do it. But you made a comment before about how, when the doors close. And so I'm using that as a segue.
Oh, before you say too much, how was your week?
Oh, how was my week? My week was busy, actually. So we had our production manager was on holidays.
Okay.
And there was lots of fires to put out. So honestly, I like that. It's a lot of fun when there's a million things going on. I can help. Not everything goes the way you plan.
Yeah.
And that's half the fun, I guess. And so I had Friday off. And so I was with the boys all day because school was yesterday.
Sweet.
So did a little bit of work, made supper, made lunch, hung out. It was kind of a schmaltz of a day of a little bit of everything, but prep for this tonight, hang out with you and do the podcast. All in all, it was a pretty good week. Yeah, a couple of hiccups we were talking about off camera that I can't mention here, but otherwise, overall, not so bad.
Now you can take me.
Now, all right. So Jeremy, I'm going back a little bit. Jeremy was talking about his buyers before and how they'd written a bunch of offers and some doors closed. Well, Jeremy, you and I have known each other, I think 3 years now, something like that. And we've had a lot of doors close and a lot of doors open in your life. A lot of chapters sort of close and new ones start. And so tonight, what I wanted to do, as I mentioned at the top of this, was what interview. And we're just going to open it up kind of, I've got interview questions here, kind of 21 question style. But, we'll see where it takes us, where rabbit holes we go down. And I hope that our audience finds some of your answers valuable, so make them valuable.
Do what I can.
But let's just start here. Actually, before I go into my questions, where'd you come from? Where'd you grow up? Like the 30-second, 90-second overview of where's Jer been? Don't go too much in detail because, there's questions here that cover some.
So I grew up in a small town called Pitfalls in southern Manitoba. My dad drove truck. My mom works in the bakery. And whatever, went to school there and had a lot of friends, and it was life. I don't know how much detail you want, but normal. I think it's just a normal life. Anything that...
Did you ever growing up in Pitfalls, because we both grew up in small towns, did you ever go, second I can get out of a small town on that?
No.
Nope.
Nope. When I was 19, I moved to the city.
Okay.
I lasted, I think, 3 months, and I was like, nah,
that's not for you,
right? And it's too much, and I just missed being out of the city, being with friends, and so it was a big change because I pretty much, I knew like 2 people in the city and that was it. But it was for a reason. I need to get out.
Yeah.
Need to clean up my act a little bit. And so,
you need to change.
Yeah.
I got you. Awesome. So small town boy.
That's it. Yeah.
Now that you've grown, you haven't really moved too far from there.
Nope.
Valley. So I get it. So with that being said, why don't you share sort of your come up in the job sort of situation? Like, where did that all start? Your dad drove truck, your mom drove bakery. Worked in the bakery.
Yeah.
Did you kind of follow on their footsteps early on? Or?
When I was young, everybody assumed I'd be a truck driver just like my dad. Because all summer long, I would be the one who'd be on the road with him all.
That was awesome.
I loved it. Yeah, you get to see all over the States and all over Canada. So that was good.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got closer to being 18, I said, I'm not getting my class 1. So it's just, I refuse to do it. And as much as I love doing that, I'm a social person. So I didn't want to be in the truck. I want to be with people, right? So then from like, I guess from 16 till I was 20 or almost 30 years old, I bounced around job to job to job. Like I'd work a year here, then get bored, and I'd go from I think I was a butcher at one place, then I was washed trucks and trailers at another place. I did the equipment on semis at another place, and then went to school for a little bit to get a BA in pastoral ministry, and and then I worked at Dominion Lending. I worked trying to get people to buy a mortgage and get a mortgage and stuff, and that cold calling people. So
like you were early on, you were trying to figure out your spot.
I worked factory jobs too, and I did a lot of different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I never was settled. And then finally, at around 30, I found a job I really liked. I really excelled at, and I did that for 6 years. And I also realized that's not a career I want to do for life, but I also realized I wanted to do something in sales, and I don't know how I had my last year there. I started doing a little bit of sales because I knew the product so well, and I was like, that's where I want to be, right? And so
speaks to the being around people and wanting to be with people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so I accelerated to that, and lo and behold, and real estate was never on my radar because commission, and at that time, single dad, and I had 3 kids. And like I sold custody of 3 kids, so then you had a lot. And to be commission job, that's scary. So that wasn't also.
So let's go back.
Yeah.
So you've got all that going on, trying to find your place career-wise, trying to figure out, what you want to do. Well, you and I never knew any of that, but obviously bits and pieces, but not the whole thing.
Yeah.
So you and I are very similar, like just trying to figure out, people always ask kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? I always joke, I'm like, I'm X years old and I still have no idea what I want to do when I grow up. But along the way, doing all these different jobs, you did get married. Or, really? Yeah, you got married. You had 2 kids who were awesome, by the way.
They are.
Although I've only ever seen the one, I think, one time. I don't think she exists in real life.
Well, she hides behind her.
Yeah. But somewhere along the way, you got married and had some kids.
Yeah.
And then along the way, obviously something didn't work out there.
Yeah.
And we don't need to go into the nitty-gritty of it or anything, but just sort of talk through, where were you personally while that was kind of going on, and that transition out, because it speaks to some of the questions that are coming up, but also show people that you can make it through tomorrow still.
So growing up, I was always kind of like, as long as I passed my grade, that's all that mattered. As long as I got 50, 60, I was like, over 50 was the minimum. As long as I made the minimum,
52, you're winning.
Everybody was happy, right?
Yeah.
As long as I did that. So you carry that through even grade 12. They were ready to kick me out. All my mom wanted me to do was graduate, and became a little bit of a push, but I did graduate, right?
Yeah.
And just at the minimum, right?
Yeah.
He just did. And so
Jeremy did just enough.
Just enough, right? And so and every report card from like grade 1 on said does not apply himself, right? And so that's kind of that slogan kind of I carried through my life for a lot of years. And so yeah, so having kids, being in a marriage there and that kind of stuff, like looking back at the younger years of my kids, there's does not apply himself probably is there as well, right? Because, well, we had TV, so you throw on the television and the kids are there and they're doing their own thing. Oh, we're going to play a video game together and that's going to be, well, really, that's for me to keep them quiet. And then I do some stuff, right? With them too. It wasn't all that, but that was an easy go-to, right? Yeah. And so that does not apply himself, right?
Yeah.
And then, marriage, then when things kind of started going haywire, well, then it's just Jer checked out, right? And he's gone. And so then then there's a lot of mistakes through that.
Yeah.
On both sides. So
were you at that time, were you in the midst of changing jobs? Were you at that job you had been at for a couple of years at that point? They went for 6 years?
Yeah, I was in the middle of that job.
Okay.
Or kind of the early stages of that job.
Okay.
The year or two.
So you at least had something secure kind of in your life to anchor you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was a blessing, that job at the same time, because it gave me that. And then I had a boss who was kind of understanding as of going through all that stuff and whatnot, which was an extremely messy time in my life, right? Then after the divorce, or after, not the divorce, but after separation, and my first few months were really rough, right? Because it just was like, I took it really hard. And then that's where I also started going, okay, listening to Jordan Peterson and his 12 rules for life. And if you want a book that is absolutely life-changing, that was, for me, probably.
But you didn't change in that moment.
Was that?
You didn't change in that moment. The seeds were planted.
Okay, so I'll say maybe I didn't change in that moment, but my change at that point came extremely fast.
Okay.
So I think inside it was like something that just was like, okay, get up, pick yourself up, and let's do this, right?
Yeah.
And so I went from almost being depressed and really going through a rough time and having a hard time getting out of bed, but realizing I need to take care of my kids. Yeah. I need to do this, right? I need to man up.
Thank goodness for your kids at that point in your life, probably, because they pushed you to.
They gave me a reason, right? Right. And they were there for that, right? And so it was like, okay, now I need to man up and start going, right? So within like a couple months span, I was right, it changed. A lot of that changed, right?
And it was easy at that point, right? Like life was fine.
Oh, it was so, no, not at all. It was like still a very hard time.
I'm trying to paint the picture for the listeners that like you were moving forward, but it didn't get better necessarily right away.
No, no, it didn't get better, but I did.
Right.
Situation.
That's what I'm trying to. I'm leading slightly, but only because I'm trying to paint for these guys that like you were changing.
Yes.
But circumstances still suck.
Yeah, like I was still like, so now I had to learn how to be a single dad of 3 kids that I had full time, and thankfully I had a good support with my parents around.
Yeah.
And so I had that, but really built me up to, okay, I had to get myself to a better place.
Really?
And I think a lot of people get this wrong. And I'll criticize a little bit here.
I like this.
All right. People think you have to worry about the kids first.
Yes.
But if you worry about the kids first, well, you're still a mess. You're never going to be able to get out of that mess. It is such a struggle, right? So not everybody's blessed to have people like I had in my life that could help me with my kids.
Yes.
So, but I think it's so crucial to get yourself to a place of growth, of getting on the right track. And then out of that, well, now, as simple as like Jordan Peterson said, start making your bed, then start cleaning up your room, then start cleaning up the house, right? Then start cleaning. That's exactly it, right? It was taking care of myself first, and then I could take care of my kids. Then I could help them. But I didn't just like, well, I did this, and I tried this once. No, it was like work. Like I dedicated time purposefully to make myself to a better place.
Yeah.
But that reading, extremely important. What I'm putting in my head, listening to music, listening to podcasts, listening to books, reading books, what I was absorbing. At that point, I think I was so empty. I was like a sponge. I was just sponging up everything else, and I just kept learning. And it didn't take long till I was like, okay, now I could start. Within a couple of months, I was also like, okay, now I'm investing in my kids. I'm spending time with them differently than I have in the past. We're doing more outings. We're doing more fun things. It wasn't easy because now I still had to deal with, there's still their mom that was in and out and whatnot at that time. And but that was extremely emotionally hard for them. But to be there, to be the steady one all the time. But that's because I was able to put myself in a place where.
And I think the interesting thing for me is that the constant sort of back and forth mentally of being present for your kids, being dad, but like also having the grown up stuff that has to be dealt with. It's serious, whether it's relational, financial, whatever you got going on, like towing that line between the two, super hard.
Yeah.
But you were talking about it wasn't easy and you had to do it multiple times, right? Like the making of the bed and all those things. So the guy on Instagram that I follow, he had this quote, and I don't know if it's his or not, but so I'm not going to attribute it to him necessarily, but he said, the daily and constant monotonous work, constant monotony is what we.
I think so.
And I think that too often we attach those sorts of quotes to business, career, right? But cue yourself up off the floor, figuratively speaking.
Mm-hmm. I literally speak. God.
At times, I imagine, emotionally, all that. That's what you did. Was just, whether you wanted to or not, that daily discipline, that constant monotonous work of, I'm going to make the bed, I'm going to make the breakfast, right? So I think that there's a lesson there, doing what's necessary, no matter your feeling.
And that's the big thing as well, is going through a lot of that stuff. I feel like I wanted to do that. I didn't feel like I wanted to read the book. I didn't feel like I wanted to listen.
What did you feel like doing about it?
Oh, like there's times where, especially at the beginning, where you like, all I want to do is just lay in bed and do nothing. And I want to feel sorry for myself. I want to turn on the TV. I want to do that. Like, you just drown out everything. Yeah. And yet I went to the point of like, no, I need to do this. It wasn't a want anymore, right? We got past that point where the need was so high that it surpassed anything else, right?
So would you say, because this is one of the questions that I had written down, but I disagree with the question, so I'm gonna tweak it a bit.
Yeah.
Would you say though, in that moment, nothing was motivating you to keep going after those setbacks? It was simply the need, the discipline, moving forward one step at a time.
Well, I think there was the constant motivation of, I have to be better for my kid. I think that was still the motivation, right? Like, I think that's, no matter how I spin it, that's always going to be that I had to be better for them. I had to show up for them. And if I don't show up for them, nobody else will.
Did you have that thought back then? Because I know we've talked about it now for both of us, but back then, did you have that thought of like, my kids are watching me?
I don't know that I did as much then. I think at that time I was just in such a place where I can't let them down. I can't make them suffer because I was, right. And to my own doing as well. I'm not pointing fingers, right? Like, but like it's a two-way street. So, but I can't make my kids suffer for that because they need somebody that's going to be strong. They need somebody that's going to be there for them. They need somebody that they can go to and talk about the pain that they're going through, and being real. Like, sometimes they have to talk about, well, they miss their mom. Well, who are they going to talk to about, right?
You want them to talk.
I want them to, and yet at the time,
you do want to have that.
I didn't want to hear about it, right? But at the same time, I had to prepare myself to be in a place to be ready to deal with that and allow them to feel what they need to feel, because it was so important that they did.
And they were, at the time, they were younger too. Like, it wasn't like they were almost half grown and could process better.
Yeah.
Blessing and a curse, I guess, on both sides. So, you changed jobs multiple times. You had a relationship that ended, becoming a single dad, all these things, sole custody. What, and I'm just rereading the question here so I get it right. But, why, or what about these sort of first starts in your life, for better or worse?
Mm-hmm.
How has that affected your views on success?
I think there's times where we think success is simply the trajectory.
Like a hockey stick.
Yeah, it's just going up, right?
Yeah.
What we don't see is the up, down, up, down, up, down. But over time, it's going up.
Yeah.
But there are those pitfalls. And how do you get through those pitfalls? And how do you get past that you can... That's what success looks like, is when you go down, are you going to go back up? Not like, or are you just going to keep going down, right? Because even now, we still go through those where you have those down times and it's like, fight. But the fight looks different. And that's the other thing. Is it different than it was? If you're dealing with the same problems that you're dealing with 2 years ago, now you have a problem. Now there is a big problem, right? But are your problems changing? If your problems are growing, that's good.
I think we talked about that on one of our first podcasts, this idea that, like, how many times, because I was guilty of it, how many times do we go, okay, babe, this year's going to be our year.
Yeah, right.
This year we're going to do it, right? And then at the end of the year,
we didn't do it.
We did do it, but I think that's exactly what you're talking about. So roughly how many years ago did that all kind of not settle out? Because I know there was hiccups along the way, but like, at what point did you feel, okay, we're now past that sort of inflection?
I guess when I went into real estate, was that, so 2017, no, to 2019. Okay, so a little bit interesting story. When I was 19, 20 years old,
you're 50 now, right?
Well, it feels that way. So when I was 19, 20 years old, so this is just over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I had to create an email account. So I forget what it is, but I put 2019 at the end of it because it's 20 or 19. So whenever I was 2019, right? And so it didn't take long. I kept getting asked, why did I do 2019? I'm like, 2019 is the year that is going to change the world. No, I used to say, not that it's going to change the world, that the world was going to end, right? That's what I always said. And I don't know why I said that, but the world was going to end. The world was
like, it was a joke.
Yeah, it was a complete joke, right? And I said that, right, for 20 years. And it's, for whatever reason, I always kept that number in my head, right? Yeah. And I laughed in a lot of ways during that year because I was like, so my divorce got finalized, right?
Yeah.
Which I was changing careers.
Yeah.
It seemed like the old me had passed away and the new was coming out in 2020.
The world did end.
So the world, I just thought the way I was joking about, right? Not the way I ever thought about it. So 2019 was a year of a huge transition. 2020 was coming in.
You had all that going on when we first.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was already like ancient history.
No, I don't talk about it.
Well, hey, we talked before we hopped on here, if you were okay talking.
I'm cool, right? But no, like, so 2019, 2020. 2019 was great because it really shifted my mindset. That's when I did all my homework to get into and got my books done to get into real estate. 2020 is when I actually started. So
let's transition for a bit, and we're going to jump back here. But let's transition and talk about the blue collar Jer. You went from working a blue collar job. You were there for a long time. You at one point told me, like, this is what I was going to do.
Yeah.
This was my deal. I was gonna stand up my own thing and all these different things. And we don't necessarily have to talk about that if you don't want to, but where did that come from? why the shift? Like you talked about, you got kids, you were thinking about real estate, commission only, no more steady paycheck.
Yeah.
Something you didn't know anything about real estate, did you?
No.
Okay. I'm glad you said no, because I was pretty sure the answer was
no. 5 minutes. No.
But you're going, all of a sudden, it's just like dead stop, doing something completely new. The old Jer is dying, which I think we should touch on a little bit later, but talk to me about that. Talk to me about that career transition and sort of what the heck happened.
Yeah, I don't know why. So I often say I was planning wanting to, so I had already previously figured out that I was going to be more in school for something. And I thought it was going to be during my off season because I work seasonal work. So I thought during my off season, I got to school. Yeah, I picked up the contracts doing some little jobs here and there. But I figured, I'm going to do work school, get some business classes because I learned a little bit more about business and sales. That was my goal.
And because at this time you had already started doing some of the sales for the company?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was kind of my goal. Then I always say, I had this one bad day at work, right? And then I did. And that shifted everything.
Okay.
And so I had this already in my head. I was like, I'm going to be going to learn about sales, right?
To progress your career in that field.
And I just was like, I had no necessarily focus on, and I wasn't really driven to do it. I just really felt like I needed to do something. I had one bad day at work, and I was like, I'm done leaving this. And for whatever reason, I don't know how I ended up going into real estate, but I did. I went into, I filled out a few things. And sure enough, I was able to go for a few applications kind of thing in different places. And I got offered a few different jobs, different places. And at the time, I just thought, well, they just hire anybody because, like, why would 5 different places offer me a job to go work if I had my license, right? So
yeah,
I just thought, everybody could, as long as you get your license, you can work anywhere.
Yeah, as long as you're breathing.
Yeah, you can do it, right? They'll take you on, right? So I thought, okay, well, I didn't feel anything. But I got my license in 3 months, and I was back at
I don't recommend it for you kids out there. That's an accelerated pace.
And yeah, and I was working. I was a single dad through that. Like,
Yeah.
nothing changed through that time. But I was just so
Your day-to-day didn't necessarily change, but you clearly were starting to change.
motivation. Like, also something clicked where I was like, I have to do this. And I set a time limit in my head. I need to be done this by this time so that I can start it.
How much could we touch on that a few times?
Yeah.
Even on the podcast, obviously, as friends, we talked about that, but all the podcasts, even you touched on that timeline thing a couple of times, where you didn't verbalize it necessarily, but in your head you were like, "This is my timeline. This is what I'm doing." How much of that do you think played into you actually executing and getting it done in that time frame?
Well, I think that was huge because I put a goal to it. Like, what is it? Goals are just dreams with deadlines, right? And so that was kind of, I think Tony Robbins says that, right?
Yeah.
And so I did verbalize it. I told like one of the owners of the company I was going to work at, I said, my goal is to be here by this time. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And just
Good, Jeremy.
Yeah. Have fun, right? You're going to be overwhelmed and good luck with that, right?
Yeah.
And when I showed up and I was done, they're like, so, but having that dream and that goal, and just the other part of it was the ignorance of not knowing what to expect of how long this should take people.
I think I've heard so many stories with that ignorance people. I think it's real. I think it helps. But do you think mentally putting that like streamlined timeline mentally wired your brain to like, oh, this is just what we're doing?
We have to get this.
Yeah.
But you don't want to not meet your goal.
Like, do you think, obviously, retrospect, you don't know what the answer would really be, but do you think, had you not mentally told yourself, hey, this is what I'm doing, and then verbalized it, do you think you still would have done it in 3 months, or do you think it would have taken you to 6, 8, 9?
I think that actually, that probably played a big part of it. In my head, I had to do it because if I didn't do it by that point, I don't know that I'd get everything done, knowing the timelines of how things kind of played out.
It made it real. It made it real. Like putting a timeline on it made it real.
Right. But there was a sense of urgency in it, right? Because of that timeline. Whereas if it was just like, oh, if I get it in February or March instead of December, it doesn't really make a difference. But that time I knew I'd have the option of going back to my job again, and I might just take that again for another.
Oh,
and so, but if
that is the real deal.
Yeah, if I separated myself enough, and I started that early enough, well, I'm already doing something. Back.
It was the burn the boat thing.
Yeah. And I kept my reputation. I didn't, even though I knew I was quitting, I didn't tamper or didn't make it bad at the job. I still kept it good. I still made sure.
And didn't burn bridges.
No, I did burn bridges, but I burned the boats. There we go. That's a good way.
Have you read the book, Burn the Boats?
No.
I'm going to lend it to you.
All right.
Or, no, you don't really read it. You listen to it.
Well, I do both now.
Okay. Oh, Grim? I'm going to borrow you the book.
All right.
I think really, really enjoying it.
Okay.
It's a guy you've never heard of. Super good.
Oh, that's my list.
But I think I've been thinking a lot about this idea of if you're going to change something in your life, how much mental is part of it, of like in 3 months, in 6 months, in 8 months.
Setting a deadline, I think, is very important. But then dedicating time, right? So one thing that I'll speak to the urgency of it, right? So I finished my first module. There's 4 modules. One is in person. Okay. So that's the 2-day thing at the end, right? The 4th one.
Yeah.
Right. So I did my first one in a month and a half. I did my second one. My first one in 5 weeks, my second one in 5 weeks. And then I came to a point where I realized that when I wrote my second exam, like I have to get my books. And I talked to them like, when's this last time they're doing the 4th module in person this year? And they're like, well, you have to be done by here. I think it was mid-December, 15th or something. Like, okay.
Which gave you like a week or something?
Well, then I was like, okay, so, but that means I have to have my exam done 2 weeks prior to that, which means, so I have to
doing the backward method.
Yeah. So like, if I want to get I have to get my books on this, and I'm getting my books this day. I'm like, so what's the next exam book? They're like in 2 weeks. Like, I'll book my exam. But if you fail, you have to redo it anyway. You have to pay for it. So like, yeah, I'll book it. And so my 3rd module, so after taking 5 to 6 weeks per thing, for my first 2, my 3rd module, I did in 2 weeks. And I scored my highest mark because I was so dedicated, so like, I have to do this. That sense of urgency was like, I have to. There's no room for error on this. I cannot fail. And one thing I realized about myself is, if I have a backup plan, no, I'm like that. That's
what I mean.
Well, I just won't try as hard, right? Where there, I'm like, I don't have a backup plan. If I don't do this, I'm screwed, right?
Which you saw when you were like, mentally, you were like, if we get too close to on season for me, like this thing's getting bad.
Right? That's my backup plan, right? And I couldn't allow that to happen. So I separate. So when I don't have a backup plan, like to burn the boats, right? Yeah. Just dive all in and go. So
how? So 2-part question.
Yeah.
Part 1 is looking back over your divorce, over your kids, over your career path, all 3. Kind of when you look back, based on now, obviously, what you know, being on the other side of it, are the things that you would have done differently, sort of through the process? Because the stuff's still gonna happen.
Yeah.
Relationship stuff still happen.
Well, I think earlier on in life, if I would have been told to do more than the minimum, that would have changed everything. Expectations of me would have been higher. That would have changed everything.
Did you feel like you could do anything, or you were already, because that had come up so many times, and you were already pre-wired that like Jer's gonna be a seasonal D-style boy.
Yeah, this is life. So just get used to it. That's it, right? That's all, right? So that's all amount to.
Yeah.
And so I think if I would have, what I do with my kids is I set the bar high and I talk to them as though they have to hit it, right?
Yeah.
And not that I push them necessarily. We still have really good conversations about different things, what they want to do in the future. But I'll brag a little bit. My son's 18-year-old. He's already off a year into the trades, and he's set himself up for a good foundation. He has somebody who manages his money already, like investments and insurance and all that stuff. Like he's got all the right things in place that
he just knew that though, right? Like,
yeah, right. Yeah, no, but like, no, I pushed him in that, like, and I pushed him to do these things, right? I pushed him
because dad was trying to teach him some things that dad didn't know back in the day.
Dad never, like, and as much as my parents love me, and they do, no question there, they didn't know, right?
Yeah, they did the best they had.
They didn't
best what they had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't know this prior to
being old.
Prior to my late 30s, right? Like,
yeah,
that's where I started learning all this stuff. And so I'm still learning a lot of this stuff as we go.
Agreed.
And if I do this at that age, how different would my life be now? So I take that thought, I'm like, I'm going to teach them.
Mm-hmm.
And teach them that, look, you can elevate your life far beyond.
So you answered my next question for your kids.
Yeah.
But my next piece of the question is going to be, given your experiences, how has that shaped how you make decisions around life success now? Because you're not 18, you don't have new information at 18.
Yeah.
You have new information in the 30s. 40s, 50s.
40s.
You get to a certain point where everybody's saying,
yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But how has some of that now shaped your decision making and your view of success and sort of how the world works, how your world was?
Well, I think in a lot of ways, I'm still trying to figure that out, right? I don't have it all sorted out. I'm still working through different things. And I'm still learning lessons on what does and what doesn't work. So I'm a lot further ahead now than I was, say, 4, 5, 6 years ago. But I look and I'm like, man, I still got a long way to go, right? So but always being in that place of willing to learn. I think that's the huge thing in all of it, right?
I think, let's talk about this. How much time do we have left here on the clock? We got a couple of minutes. I do want a few minutes to wrap up and do lessons learned here.
Yeah.
But how much do you think over the last 4 or 5 years, because you drew that line here, in the last 4 or 5 years, that self-development you've done, build self-awareness? Because I think you can tell me your opinion, but I don't think that you can continually self-develop if you're not self-aware enough to go, I don't know everything. I'm not a know-it-all. I don't have it all figured out. I don't have all the money in the bank, kind,
yeah,
et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that your lack of self-awareness and then your more, and what the transverse of that would be, but your more self-awareness, how that played a role?
I think so. I think you also had that point of when you're just not aware. Well, you can't change what you're not aware of.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing, right? So to be aware of it, then you're like, okay, well, that was me. Why did I do that? That was dumb.
Should we do it again?
Yeah. Should we do it again? That was dumb. One more.
Yeah. Right. But a brain literally works like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, how many teenagers do you know that go, never drinking again? And then the next Friday night,
yeah,
they're back on.
Yeah.
You know? Great conversation.
I want to leave before we get into that.
I'm not doing that.
Oh, yet. You're not doing that? Yeah, okay.
I just kind of, I want to work towards the end.
All right.
But, I just wanted to appreciate you here before we go on, sort of as we close. I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate, we didn't go in depth on the personal stuff for obvious reasons, but I know even some of the surface stuff, it's always a little bit hard to share. But as we go, we talked about your past and kind of how you got here and, how awesome your kids are and why they're awesome because you're awesome. But what are some of the things you do now? Maybe recent additions,
Yeah.
or some things that you've learned over the last little bit that's really started to excel mentally, physically, emotionally, where you're going.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things I've just learned in the last probably 3 weeks or so that really has impacted me
Yeah.
is, okay, so I started thinking about law of attraction and specifically on abundance, right? Like, okay, so if I'm looking at what's happening, if I want to live an abundant life, well, one, you got to define what that means, right?
Yeah.
And then you got to start actually thinking about abundance, because if you're thinking about lack, you're gonna get lack. You're gonna get like, oh, I have nothing. Oh, this is stressing me out. Oh, this deal's not gonna go through. Oh, this is. You're gonna start living it, right? And that stress of worry, the worst thing that could happen during that is you start succeeding. Because if you start succeeding with that mindset, you're always going to have that it's going to be hard to break out of it, right? And so over the last few weeks, I started looking into this abundance. And one of the things that really stood out to me is somebody, forget where it is, somebody started talking about raindrops. You start seeing raindrops. Before it pours, it always starts raining and it starts picking up and then it pours, right? Right? And so one of the things is looking at the things that are in front of you that you maybe are just, you need to be thankful for and be like, as in God or the universe is trying to show you, like, look, I have something for you. I have something great for you. I have more in store for you, right? And so I started thinking about this, and so I started, okay, well, we're gonna start this and just thankful. Just when I see something, I'm gonna be thankful for it, right?
Yeah.
So they wanted me seeing this. Or thinking this. I'm driving inside back, and a McLaren drives past me. Never seen one of those inside back in my life. But yeah, like, and I was like, "Are you?" So it wasn't on my phone, but I somehow took a picture of it. And so, because I was so that right, I was like, instantly, I was that thought of be thankful, right? Abundance is on its way, right? And so it was just being thankful for. Thank you for that image. Thank you for that, what you showed me, right? And then I saw this thing, and right away, this thing of like, be grateful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
That's amazing.
Right? And so I started applying that gratefulness in different areas. Like when I started seeing something that was like, that just kind of worked out, that was just, that happened, right? Just gratitude, thankful. Um, and so even there, I had a coworker come up with to me this week. I saw that you kind of had a funny month where like things just weren't landing for you for a bit there. But he's like, but the amount of work you come in, you're going to be blowing it up next month. And I just, right? And then instantly it was back to that, something that reaffirmed in my soul, in my spirit, in my mind, whatever, that God has something more for me here.
Yeah.
Thankful, right? Gratitude. So thankful for that, right? And then even like I shared earlier, I'm going to kind of go allude to that as well.
Gabriel.
Is last night I started to get a little bit stressed. I started to feel anxious about, oh, what's going to happen here? And I was just like worried about it in that moment. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the phrase, just the right time, right? That was it.
You were reading the Galatians.
Yeah, then also it brought me back to Galatians 4, verse 3 and 4, where it said, at just the right time, God acted. It's essentially what it's talking about, right? And it's just reaffirmed inside of us, thank you, right? Like, and just being grateful for that. So I'm expecting amazing things to happen. I think this next couple of months is going to just be outstanding.
Yeah.
So but they that hear, who knows? But
we're putting it out into the universe.
Yeah.
We're manifesting the great things are happening this month.
Yeah.
For you guys, for Jer, for me, we're gonna get big things happening.
Exactly. And I just, but that seeing those raindrops, right? That's what I heard them called. I don't remember where I heard that. And I can't find that, but but seeing those things as raindrops, as it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. And so also, so today it was raining outside, and I just was like, thank you.
All freaking day.
I was just like, thank you. But that was my attitude, was just like it just reminded me of that abundance of just like, and I loved how I was driving just lightly, and then it started pouring more, raining more and more and more. I was just like, yeah, let's do it, right? So that's kind of my takeaway for the last few weeks. That's really impacted me.
I love that.
And
I love that. So we're gonna go over some of these lessons in the next podcast, guys. This is where we're gonna end. Think abundance. Be grateful. Practice gratitude. We love you. We're out.